Greetings, programs. This is John at tunevision.tv with a free Flash ActionScript 3 video tutorial. This lesson demonstrates how to put a Google map inside your Flash application using only ActionScript 3. You'll also need an API key and an SDK pack that you download from Google Maps. You can find the source material for this tutorial along with written instruction, an SWF, and an FLA file, all at developphp.com. Just go to the site, find the Adobe Flash section, click on it, and you'll find a list of tutorials. Scroll down and look for tutorials by tunevision, find this lesson, download the pack, and get started. Now you can see that this is a simple, full-functioning Google map. We can zoom on it, and I've got the marker coordinates in this example pointing at a wonderful place called Molokini. It's a tiny island off the coast of Maui, and it's a wonderful place to go snorkeling or scuba diving if you're ever so fortunate to do such a cool thing in such a beautiful place. And I thought, why not give a cool example in our tutorial? You can zoom all the way out until you get to a full world view, and you can, of course, pan left, pan right, up and down, and you can return to the last result. Along the bottom here are map type buttons. I have it defaulted in this example to default to hybrid, but you can default to whatever view you prefer, maybe map. You can also click and hold, grab and drag the map around with the Kung Fu grip. You can use your scroll zoom on your mouse to zoom in. You can change the view to satellite, change the view to hybrid, whatever works for you. You can make the map as big as you want. It can be the whole stage. You can place it wherever you like. You can also control where you place these buttons and where you place this navigation. They can be on the map, off the map, above, below, wherever you want them. You can also control the level of zoom when the map starts. So when we started, it looked like this, and you'll notice that this is about 6 clicks up from the bottom. I'll show you where that's at in the code. So if you want it to say start here, you could set that in the code. Okay, so let's get started. What you're going to want to do is do a search for Google Maps API Flash. Follow that where it takes you. You'll get a page that looks like this. And Adam over at developphp has already done an introduction on this subject, so I recommend that you take a look at that if you haven't done so already, as well as all the tutorials at developphp. You have to have a Google account before you do this, so if you don't have Gmail already, just sign in. It just takes a minute to set yourself up an account. The API key is here, and the SDK pack is here. So we'll click here to get the API. There's some instruction to go through here. Here are the terms and conditions. You agree to them here, and in this field you put the domain name of where your map is going to be hosted, and then just click Generate API Key, and it'll give you one. You have to have a unique API key for every domain that you use a map on. So if you've got joe.com and mary.com, each one of those has to have its own API key. Now you don't even need an API key to test it locally, but to view it online you have to have an API key for the specific domain. So once you have an API key, you just need to get your SDK pack. So just click on that, and that's going to bring up your download manager. You're just going to want to save the file somewhere on your computer. I've already done that, so I don't need to do that. So hold that thought, and let's take a look at the FLA. Now you'll notice that nothing's on the stage. Everything is populated through code on this one layer that we've labeled actions, and it's all in this one frame. So let's take a look at it. There's written instruction in here along with the code. So it seems like there's a lot in here, but really it's mostly instruction. This is where we left off before we opened the FLA. So once you've done that, you're going to want to look for this and then inside that, this is the particular file that you want. Map underscore whatever number underscore whatever number .swc file, not the flex one. So copy that and paste it here if you have CS4, or here if you have CS3. Do that while Flash is closed, because Flash has to restart and see that those components are in the configuration. So open Flash after you've done that, and then what you'll want to do is look in your components and make sure that Google Maps library component shows up in your standard components. Should be here. Then you can click Google Maps and it should show up in your library. And it'll look like this. Make sure that it's exported. I think it does it automatically. If it doesn't, right click it, click Properties, make sure these both say exported, say OK, and there might be another box that comes up that's asking for a class path. Say OK to that as well, and then it'll be exported here. Now the only other thing in the library is our marker. And if I click that, you'll see it here, and if I click it again, it'll show up on our stage. Now all I did with this is draw it in Flash, and then I right-clicked it, converted it to a symbol, called it marker 1, made it a movie clip, and exported it here. Now I've already done that, so let me show you what it looks like. If I right-click on the marker here in the library list, go to Properties, see there it is, marker 1, movie clip, exported in class marker 1. So the first time you do that and export it, you'll say OK, and it'll give you that message again in the next dialog box that will say that it needs a path for the class or whatever, and say OK to that as well. So make sure these are both exported. The other thing is to consider is when you make your own marker, or when you play with this marker or whatever you're using as a marker, you got to pay attention to these crosshairs. That's the registration point for this symbol. It's also the coordinates to whatever that symbol's pointing at. So it's real important that if you create your own marker, that it's pointing right to those crosshairs as close as you can get it, like a X marks the spot. Reason being that when you use your map, when you zoom in and out, it'll stay in the right place, because if it isn't, it'll get miles away from whatever you're supposed to be pointing at. So just keep that in mind when you're using the marker, when you're drawing it and setting it up with those coordinates. Okay? Now, go to the timeline here and back to scene 1, and that first frame that has all of our script in it. And just this is the rest of the code. I'm not going to go over all of it because there's commented out pretty well in terms of giving you lots of written instruction. This is where you're going to put your API key between those green parentheses. And I want to show you how the coordinates function works. It's in two places in here. Here, there's the coordinates for setting the center of the map. And it's those numbers right there. That's the latitude and the longitude. And we also have them here, and that's what the marker is pointing out. You can have your marker pointing at a different set of coordinates than the center of the map, and you can have more than one marker. Okay? Now, as far as how close it's zoomed in, and I told you that would be an integer, that's here. In this case, it's 6 clicks up. So you can play with this number and control your zoom when the map starts. As far as figuring out coordinates, if you don't know how to do that, then what you can do is just follow this instruction. And I'll just show you real quick.